think Jared Golden's popping in and Spamberger's popping in at the end, so everyone's just kind of coming and going. Good morning, and thank you for joining us here on this solemn anniversary. 2 years ago on this day, my colleagues and I, both Democrats and Republicans, sat side by side in the House chamber awaiting the certification of our duly elected president when lawless thugs from across the country breached the U.S. Capitol, the beacon of hope and democracy for the world. They literally scaled the walls behind us, smashed windows, broke down doors, used flagpoles carrying our nation's stars and stripes as weapons against our Capitol police officers. Why? They didn't like the outcome that their fellow citizens had voted for. They hunted down the vice president, naming Capitol Police, threatening the lives of members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans alike. Domestic terrorists came to the Capitol that day in an attempt to upend our democracy and our nation's more than 230-year tradition of a peaceful transition of power. They sought to pressure Vice President Pence to unilaterally overturn the results of the 2020 election. And you'll hear more from my colleague Dean Phillips about that as well. Their attempted obstruction was foiled, and our democracy persevered. Once again, America was triumphant. Now, instead of letting that day divide us, Republicans and Democrats came together in the House and Senate to protect our electoral system and the will of the American people and ensure an attack on our Capitol never happens again. Working alongside our bipartisan Senate partners, Senators Susan Collins and Joe Manchin, and others, with a strong bipartisan group in the House, including Representative Phillips and Spamberger, Fitzpatrick, now former Representatives Upton and Kako. I led the Electoral Count Reform Act, and it was signed into law just weeks ago. After witnessing the very threats made against the Vice President in an effort to pressure him to overturn the election, after witnesses state after state attempted to overturn the votes and the will of their own citizens, and seeing the attack on the Capitol and what led to it, we knew that action had to be taken. This new bipartisan legislation, now law, reforms and modernizes the outdated Electoral Count Act of 1887 and ensures that electoral vote tallied by the Congress accurately reflects each state's vote for president, further enshrining the power of each and every citizen's vote. It will also replace archaic provisions of the 19th century law to clearly designate the roles of the federal government when selecting the president and vice president as set forth in the U.S. Constitution. The legislation also takes action to reduce frivolous objections to electoral count certification by raising the threshold to hear objections to a state's electors from just one member in each chamber to 20% of the Congress. I'm very proud to work with both sides of the aisle, along with Dean and others, over this last year to get this critical legislation signed into law to help ensure a peaceful transfer of power, to protect our great democracy, preserve the integrity of our elections, and prevent any attempts to undermine them. These are the actual substantive electoral policy changes that have happened in the aftermath of the attack. The only substantive changes that happened in legislation after the attack on our Capitol 2 years ago. Over these years, we've been reminded just how important it is to come together across party backgrounds and any lines that divide us, especially in the face of lawless thugs who seek to undermine our democracy. After the attack, and Dean, I'm sure, remembers this day very well, we actually were next to each other on the House floor, in the gallery on that day. I think it was your first day in the United States Congress. Second term, your first day, that was your second term. I just remember standing I'll never forget us, looking at each other in absolute shock and disbelief, fumbling getting the gas mask unpacked, and then running as we were called to evacuate. It's a day that will obviously haunt us and always haunt our country. That night, though, we came back to the floor of the House, and we certified the election. I stood with Republican Congressman Tom Reed, who came to our side of the aisle and said that this could never happen again, this attack to our country and our capital, that America must always come before party. To this day, my thoughts continue to be with the brave law enforcement officers, those brutally attacked, those who lost their lives, and so many others. Someone once asked Ben Franklin, who was on 1787, the end of the Constitutional Convention, what have we got, a republic or a monarchy? A republic, replied Franklin, if you can keep it. As we are seeing in real time, right now, democracy isn't easy. It can be messy and try a country's patience. But we must never forget the dark days we've been through. We must recommit ourselves to unity, civility, and truth, and embrace our calling to a higher purpose, one that helps strengthen our nation. That's the only way we will keep it. And if we do, I know, we work together, always defend our right to vote, the integrity of our elections and our democracy and our great values, our best days in the greatest country in the world will always be ahead of us. Thank you and God bless. And now let me turn it over to Dean Phillips from Minnesota.
Thanks, Josh. As Josh said, we were among the 30 or so that were trapped in the House on January 6th of 2021. Some of you covering this press conference were there. Capitol Police officers behind us were there, Capitol staff, and most that was watching it unfold on television. And as Josh referenced, fear, gas masks, calls to family, many of whom thought they wouldn't see us again. And it is a solemn day, as it well should. There'll be hundreds of members of the press covering the recognition behind us. And the truth is, I wish more were covering this right now, because it is an example, the most important example, of workhorses, not show horses, getting together to solve a very important problem. Because we recognize the fragility of democracy. And it's underreported, it's underappreciated, it's underrecognized, and has never been more important that Democrats and Republicans work together. And we did. I'm so proud to be a vice chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus. Josh, of course, our co-chair, Brian Fitzpatrick, Republican. The work we do is heartfelt, it's selfless, it's important, and no better evidence of the work product than what we present today, what's been accomplished. What happened in Ohio and Pennsylvania over the last couple of days, Democrats and Republicans setting aside the political swords to actually get something done. As we begin, hopefully, the 118th Congress, I do so in a spirit of hopefulness. Despite what is transpiring on the House floor right now, we do begin this in the spirit of possibility, hopefulness, and that chance that people like Josh and me and our Republican friends on the Problem Solvers Caucus can actually do what this country is all about. Which is to listen to one another, respect one another, work together, and do better. And I'm so proud that we actually accomplished something that may be underappreciated right now, but I think centuries from now will be recognized as a perfect example of what our founders had intended, which is no matter your stripes, no matter your state, no matter your politics, we have a job to do, and we did it. So I want to thank you and honor all of you today as well.
Questions for us?